Whenever an invitation is extended to attend a leadership event or a leadership conference, most people respond with the thought, "That's not for me." That response, believe it or not, is proof that our culture has done an excellent job of canceling who you truly are. Think about it. If we had said, "Come to a miracle service," this place would have been overflowing. But a leadership seminar, many dismiss it as irrelevant to their lives. Let me be honest with you. I don't care about the crowd. I expected you and only you. My real passion is for the person who believes this message is for them. You see, Jesus didn't like crowds. He didn't trust them. Why? Because he understood the strategy for real transformation in the world. It's not about big meetings or flashy events. True change happens in small groups committed to intensive growth. That's why he chose 12 people. Can you imagine that? Someone set out to change the world and he selected just 12 raw, untrained individuals and focused entirely on developing their leadership. He started with ordinary people. No formal training, no experience, just potential. And what a brilliant strategy. He chose businessmen and professionals, not religious people. Religious people often resist transformation. He chose people who could produce results. Matthew was an accountant, Luke a doctor, and Peter, James, and John ran a fishing business, the top industry in Galilee. One day the crowd grew too large. They stayed with him for 3 days and the food ran out. He fed them, multiplied the fish and bread. And after that day, 70 more people joined him. 70! A 70% growth in one day. Most of us would celebrate this, but Jesus was cautious. Why? Because crowds aren't committed to change. They are interested in provision. They wanted miracles, not transformation. He turned to the 70 and asked, "Why do you follow me?" He already knew the answer. They followed because of the fish and bread, not because of the message or the mission. Miracles alone do not change people. Remember the Israelites. They witnessed more miracles than most of us could imagine, yet they still complained and rebelled. Jesus calls those who chase miracles without transformation a wicked and adulterous generation. Leadership is not about feeding people or giving them what they want. Leadership is about producing change even when it's hard. It's about challenging people to feed on vision, purpose, and transformation, not temporary satisfaction. That's why he asked the 12, "Will you leave also?" Peter answered for them, "Master, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life." Leadership gives life meaning. People follow leaders who help them discover significance in their own lives. And that, my friends, is why you are here tonight. This seminar is for those who refuse to be passive, who are ready to feed on purpose, not just comfort, and who want to discover their personal leadership. True leadership doesn't begin with followers. It begins with you, with discovering your own potential. Write this down. Everyone was created to lead. Say it. Everyone was created to lead. Not just a few special people, everyone. But I know the objection forming in your mind. If everyone leads, who will follow? That objection is exactly what your culture wants you to believe, that only some are meant to lead and the rest are meant to follow. Here's another statement. Trapped inside every follower is a hidden leader. Leadership begins with your belief system. Your beliefs shape your philosophy, which shapes your life. When you truly discover who you are, you begin to command your value, to assert your influence. You realize they need me, the world needs me. Write this down. True leadership is self-discovery. Leadership begins when you meet yourself, face your fear, and recognize the power and potential within you. Moses thought he was a shepherd. Gideon thought he was a coward. And yet God introduced them to themselves, and they became leaders of nations. Leadership begins when you discover yourself and you embrace your assignment. Leadership is not for the passive. It is for those who refuse to be sheep, those who refuse to accept a life dictated by culture or circumstance. Leadership begins in you tonight, right now. Now let's take this one step further. Leadership is not just about who you are inside. It's also about how you function in a system. Let me give you an illustration. Think of a car. A car is made of tens of thousands of parts. Engine, battery, spark plugs, wires, pistons, all working together. Here's the question, which part is the most important? Many would point to the battery. After all, the battery has the power. We love power, don't we? We admire it, chase it, and think leadership is all about power. But here's the thing, without the spark plug, that power goes nowhere. Remove the spark plug and the battery is useless. Now look a little closer. There's a tiny terminal wire connecting the battery to the engine. It costs just a few dollars, but without that wire, the battery cannot transfer its energy and the car won't start. Who is the most important part? The battery, the spark plug, or the $4 wire? The answer, all of them are essential. Every part of the car is a leader in its area of function. The battery has power, the spark plug produces fire, and the wire transfers that energy. Remove any part and the system fails. Leadership works the same way. Every person in your organization, family, or team is a leader in their specific function. True leadership respects every role and recognizes its contribution. Here's the challenge. Our culture has convinced many of us that we are useless, that our function doesn't matter. But once you discover your purpose, you become free. You can declare, "They need me. The world needs me." Say it aloud. The world needs me. When you truly believe that, you become dangerous in the best sense. Dangerous to failure, dangerous to complacency, dangerous to mediocrity. You begin to act because you know your role is essential. Leadership begins with that self-discovery. Moses thought he was a shepherd. Gideon thought he was a coward. Yet God introduced them to their true identity. Leadership begins when you meet yourself and recognize your potential. When you discover that, your belief system changes, your attitude transforms, and your life begins to move in ways you never imagined. Now let's connect this to your own life. If you are where you are today, it's because of leadership. Someone's leadership shaped your path. If you don't like where you are, it's time to reconsider who is leading you, and more importantly, to lead yourself. You have been given a unique assignment, and your failure to discover it isn't just a personal loss, it's a loss for the world. Write this down. Leadership determines the destiny of followers. If the blind lead the blind, they both fall into a ditch. That's the ultimate truth. The quality of leadership directly determines the quality of life for those who follow. Let's take another example. Rosa Parks. She didn't need a position, status, or approval. She made a decision. No more toleration. That is the birth of leadership. Leadership is born when toleration ends. Whatever you tolerate, you will never change. Leaders emerge when they refuse to accept the unacceptable. This is why so many organizations, churches, and nations are under-led. People want approval. They want to be liked. They tolerate mediocrity. Leadership is rare because leadership demands courage, decisiveness, and a refusal to follow blindly. Write this down. A manager maintains, a leader changes. A manager follows policy. A leader creates policy. A manager keeps tradition. A leader challenges it. Managers focus on cost and efficiency. Leaders focus on vision and purpose. Managers ask, how do we do this? Leaders ask, is this the right thing to do? If your pastor, your boss, or your government leader is only a manager, nothing significant will change. You need leaders, people who can transform fear into courage, vision into reality, and followers into other leaders. Leadership is about creating an environment where people can rise, not just doing what's comfortable or safe. So let me ask you, who are you in your world? Are you a battery, a spark plug, a wire, or are you ready to discover your role, assert your influence, and embrace your leadership assignment? True leadership begins when you take ownership of your function, your contribution, and your destiny. Now let's talk about attitude, one of the most powerful forces in leadership. Attitude is not about your circumstances, it's about your belief system. It's the lens through which you see your world, and it determines how you respond to challenges, opportunities, and obstacles. Consider the lion. The lion is not the biggest animal in the jungle. It's not the strongest, the tallest, or the smartest. Yet the lion is the king of beasts. Why? Because of its attitude. The lion believes it can take on creatures far stronger, larger, and more intelligent than itself. That belief becomes the source of its confidence. It does not see the elephant as a threat. It sees it as lunch. Leadership works the same way. Your circumstances may seem enormous, overwhelming, even impossible, but your belief system controls your response. A true leader sees opportunity where others see obstacles, strength where others see weakness, and solutions where others see problems. Leadership is 80% mentality, 20% skill. You can have all the skill in the world, but without the right mindset, you will never lead effectively. Let's connect this to your life. How do you see your challenges, your bills, your responsibilities, your workplace problems? Most people see elephants. They are paralyzed by size, complexity, or fear. A leader sees lunch. The same situation becomes an opportunity, a chance to act, a path to success. Here's another point. Your work is not your job. Many people confuse the two. Your job is what someone pays you to do. Your work is what you were born to do. Your job may be temporary, limited, or controlled by someone else. Your work, your gift, your calling cannot be taken from you. When you align your life with your work, you tap into true leadership, the kind that cannot be constrained by external circumstances. Now let's bring this home. Leadership is a choice, not a position. You do not need a title, a certificate, or approval to lead. You lead by the influence of your mindset, your courage, your vision, and your belief in your purpose. The world will follow you when they see that you are committed, confident, and capable of transforming challenges into progress. Think about history's greatest leaders. Moses was a shepherd. Gideon was afraid. Rosa Parks was an ordinary woman on a bus. None of them had perfect circumstances, but they discovered their personal leadership and acted with courage. Leadership is birthed in moments of decision, in moments when toleration ends, when mediocrity is rejected, and when purpose overcomes fear. Here's a critical insight. Leadership determines the destiny of followers. If the blind lead the blind, both fall into a ditch. That's why your own leadership matters, not just for you, but for everyone around you. Every team, every family, every organization, and every community depends on strong visionary leaders. And write this down. Leadership begins within me. My belief system creates my attitude, and my attitude determines my destiny. Repeat it. Internalize it. If you change your attitude, you change your results. If you change your belief system, you change your world. Finally, consider this. Your culture may have told you that you are small, unimportant, or limited. That is a lie. You were created to lead and designed to dominate. Say it aloud. I was created to lead and designed to dominate. Let that truth sink into your mind and spirit. Your circumstances do not define you. Your history does not define you. Your potential does. Leadership begins with self-discovery, belief, and attitude. Once you grasp this, you are ready to face challenges fearlessly, act decisively, and inspire others to follow. Like the lion, you will move toward what others fear, seeing opportunity instead of threat, victory instead of defeat. Now that we've talked about attitude and belief, let's move to vision, the second key element of personal leadership. Vision is more than seeing a goal. It's seeing a future that others cannot yet see. Leadership without vision is like a car with no steering wheel. It has power, but no direction. Vision is more important than leadership itself. Why? Because vision creates the leader. A person becomes a leader when they see a future better than the present and decide to take action. Without vision, leadership is reactive. With vision, leadership is proactive. It shapes reality instead of merely responding to it. Let's take a closer look at the eagle, another animal God identifies with leadership. The eagle is not the strongest nor the fastest, but it is the most strategically positioned. It soars high above storms, sees long distances, and strikes with precision. The eagle teaches us that perspective is power. A leader must rise above immediate challenges to see the bigger picture, to anticipate and to act with clarity. Here's the connection. Attitude gives you confidence, vision gives you direction, and together they create powerful leadership. Leaders do not follow the crowd. They rise above noise, distraction, and conventional thinking. They see the opportunities hidden in crises and the potential in people overlooked by others. Think about your own life. Where are you right now? Are you focused on short-term survival, or are you seeing your long-term potential? Leaders act from vision. They understand that today's decisions shape tomorrow's reality. Every choice, every action, every mindset contributes to the life they are building and the people they are influencing. Let's talk about courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to act despite fear. Look at Gideon. He was hiding, trembling, afraid of his enemies. Yet when he met his purpose, he discovered the courage to lead an entire army. Leadership requires courage because leaders confront what others avoid. They challenge the status quo, disrupt complacency, and push beyond comfort zones. And here's a practical truth. What you tolerate, you empower. Leaders are not passive. They act when others remain silent. They challenge mediocrity, demand excellence, and inspire others to rise above limitations. Toleration is the graveyard of leadership. Wherever you allow dysfunction, injustice, or stagnation to continue, you are accepting failure as normal. A true leader says, enough is enough. Vision, attitude, and courage work together to form the core of leadership identity. Once you embrace these principles, you no longer operate under someone else's rules or limitations. You discover your own value, your own strength, and your own calling. That is when leadership begins to flow naturally, from within outward. Here's a powerful statement to write down. I see what others cannot see. I act where others hesitate. I lead where others follow blindly. This is not arrogance, it's recognition of your potential. Leadership is not about being liked, approved, or validated by others. It's about seeing clearly, believing boldly, and acting decisively. Finally, consider this. The world does not need more employees or followers. It needs leaders who understand themselves, their vision, and their calling. Your community, your organization, your family, and your society are waiting for someone to step up. That someone is you. Now that we've explored attitude, belief, vision, and courage, it's time to talk about action and influence, how a leader turns potential into results. Leadership is not just about seeing the future or thinking like an eagle or a lion. Leadership is about making things happen. Action is the bridge between vision and reality. Let's go back to the car analogy. Remember the battery, the spark plug, and the $4 terminal wire? Each part had its role. None was powerful alone, but together they produced motion, energy, and life for the car. Leadership works the same way. You are powerful, but your power is useless until it connects to your vision and your environment. Action is that connection. The $4 terminal wire teaches a critical lesson. Leaders must know how to transfer power. The battery contains energy, the spark plug produces the fire, but the terminal wire makes the engine function. Leadership is not about hoarding power, it's about transferring it effectively so others can act, create, and grow. You cannot lead in isolation. Leadership is always relational. Now, influence. Influence is different from authority or position. You may have a title, but titles do not create change. Influence is what moves people, shapes behavior, and builds culture. And influence is earned through trust, consistency, and integrity. People follow leaders they believe in, not just those they respect or fear. Consider Jesus and his disciples. He didn't start with authority. He didn't have power over them initially. He invested in them, taught them, challenged them, and gave them responsibility. Influence is cultivated, not demanded. Your influence grows as you help others grow. This is why leadership is about service, not self-promotion. Here's a critical point. Leaders create leaders, not followers. Most organizations fail because they produce followers, not leaders. When you develop others, your influence multiplies. You can't lead the world alone. The 12 disciples were raw material, but Jesus invested, molded, and empowered them. That's why the world changed, not because of the crowds, but because of the leaders he developed. Next, let's talk about alignment. A leader must align their vision, action, and influence with their values. Misalignment creates confusion, inefficiency, and failure. If your thoughts, beliefs, and actions don't match your purpose, you will struggle to lead. Leaders are consistent. They act in harmony with their principles. Now, a powerful question. Are you transferring power effectively in your life? Are you inspiring those around you to act? Or are you holding energy for yourself? Leadership is useless if it does not ripple outward. The best leaders amplify the abilities of others. They build teams, cultivate talent, and multiply results. Remember, leadership is functional, not positional. The CEO is not automatically the most effective leader. The manager is not automatically the strongest influence. Leadership is measured by the impact you create, not the title you hold. Ask yourself, where am I creating impact today? How am I influencing my environment? How am I transferring my power to others? Finally, action without preparation is reckless, and preparation without action is useless. A leader must balance thinking and doing, planning and executing, vision and implementation. Leadership is a cycle of seeing, believing, acting, and inspiring others to act. Now that we've talked about action, influence, and transferring power, we need to address the moral and ethical responsibility of leadership. Leadership is not just about making things happen or inspiring people. True leadership carries a weight, a responsibility to do what is right, not just what is easy or profitable. Think about the $4 terminal wire again. It transfers energy, but if it's misconnected or damaged, the whole engine fails. Leadership works the same way. Your decisions, your character, your values, if compromised, can destroy everything around you. Ethics and integrity are non-negotiable for anyone who wants to lead effectively. Leadership without values is like power without a purpose. Many leaders fail because they chase influence, status, or wealth without grounding themselves in principles. They forget that their followers' lives are shaped by their choices. Every decision you make, every action you take impacts those who trust and follow you. This is why leadership is sacred. It is not a personal playground. Here's a fundamental truth. Leaders create culture. If you are a leader, you are constantly shaping the environment, whether you realize it or not. Your words, actions, and beliefs set the tone for everyone around you. Think about a company, a family, or a nation. The moral compass of the leader becomes the moral compass of the people. If the leader tolerates mediocrity, dishonesty, or corruption, the followers will reflect that. If the leader upholds excellence, integrity, and courage, those values ripple outward. Next, let's talk about courage and responsibility. Leadership requires the courage to make difficult decisions. You will face moments when the easy path tempts you, when approval is more attractive than principle. True leaders choose principle over popularity. Leadership demands responsibility for outcomes, both good and bad. You cannot blame your team, your culture, or your circumstances. Leaders own their decisions and their consequences. Leadership is also about sacrifice. You may have to give up comfort, security, or even personal recognition for the sake of the vision. Jesus demonstrated this perfectly. He invested in his disciples, taught them rigorously, challenged them, and prepared them to lead, often at great personal cost. Real leaders are willing to pay the price for transformation, both their own and that of those they lead. Here's a test for you. When people look at your life, do they see integrity, courage, and responsibility? Or do they see compromise, shortcuts, and inconsistency? Leadership is not about being perfect, but it is about being consistent in the principles you value. You may make mistakes, but you must demonstrate that your core values guide every decision. That is how you earn trust, influence, and loyalty. Another critical aspect is self-discipline. Leaders cannot lead effectively if they cannot manage themselves. Your thoughts, emotions, and actions must be aligned with your vision. A leader without self-discipline is like a car with a full battery but disconnected wires. It has potential but cannot produce results. Self-discipline turns energy into productive action, belief into consistent behavior, and vision into reality. Finally, leadership requires a long-term perspective. It's easy to chase immediate results, recognition, or applause, but leaders see beyond the present moment. They invest in people, processes, and principles that may not pay off immediately but create lasting impact. Leadership is not about short-term wins, it is about sustainable transformation. So remember, leadership without moral responsibility, ethical grounding, courage, and self-discipline is not leadership. It is power without purpose. Leadership begins with you, but its reach extends to everyone who looks to you for direction. Your influence shapes lives, communities, and history. Now that we've explored responsibility, courage, and the ethical foundation of leadership, we move to something equally vital: developing your skills and taking initiative. Leadership is not passive. It is an active, intentional process of growth, influence, and impact. You cannot wait for someone to declare you a leader. Leadership begins when you decide to lead yourself. The first step in personal leadership is self-mastery. You must learn to govern your own thoughts, emotions, and actions. Many people fail because they allow fear, doubt, or distraction to control them. But the mark of a leader is someone who can act decisively, even in uncertainty, because their beliefs are stronger than their fears. Think about history's great leaders. They were not born fearless, but they cultivated courage through clarity of purpose and daily discipline. They faced obstacles, criticism, and even threats to their very existence, but they refused to let fear dictate their actions. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the willingness to act despite it. Write that down. Leadership requires acting when you are afraid. Next, let's talk about initiative. True leaders do not wait for permission. They do not ask for approval before they act. They create opportunities, solve problems, and move forward with vision. Initiative is the bridge between thought and action. Without it, potential remains dormant and influence is never realized. Leadership also involves developing influence. Influence is earned, not demanded. You cannot force people to follow you, but you can inspire them through authenticity, competence, and consistent action. The more people trust your judgment and see your integrity, the more they will align with your vision. Influence grows when your actions match your words. Another key element is strategic thinking. Leaders see the bigger picture. They anticipate challenges, identify opportunities, and plan beyond the immediate moment. Strategic thinking allows you to position yourself, your team, and your vision for long-term success. Remember, leaders don't react to circumstances, they shape them. But here's a challenge. Developing your skills and taking initiative requires persistence. Transformation does not happen overnight. You will face setbacks, delays, and even failure. The difference between a leader and a follower is that leaders learn from failure, adapt, and keep moving. Persistence transforms obstacles into stepping stones. Let's also address communication. A leader must communicate vision clearly and inspire others to action. But effective communication is not just speaking, it is listening, understanding, and connecting. Your ability to relate to others, to empathize, and to convey meaning determines the depth of your influence. A message without connection is wasted energy. Finally, leadership requires mentorship and multiplication. True leaders do not hoard knowledge, power, or opportunity. They invest in others, train them, and prepare them to lead. Jesus' strategy was perfect. He focused on 12, trained them, and through them multiplied his impact. Your leadership is measured not by how many follow you, but by how many leaders you produce. So here's the reality. You must take control of your own leadership journey. Identify your strengths, confront your weaknesses, master your thoughts, and take action today. Develop your skills, cultivate influence, and create a ripple effect that extends far beyond yourself. Leadership is a lifetime commitment to personal growth and impact. Remember these key points. Leadership begins with self-mastery. Courage is acting despite fear. Initiative bridges vision and action. Influence is earned through integrity and consistent action. Strategic thinking shapes outcomes. Persistence turns failure into growth. Communication connects vision to people. Mentorship and multiplication ensure lasting impact. If you embrace these principles, you will stop being passive. You will stop waiting for approval. You will become a leader who transforms environments, inspires people, and changes history. This is your calling. This is your assignment. Now we arrive at the pinnacle of personal leadership. vision, destiny, and transformational impact. All the skills, discipline, courage, and influence we've discussed are meaningless without a clear vision. Vision is what separates leaders from followers. Vision is what turns ordinary people into world changers. Think about every great leader you know: Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Nelson Mandela, Moses, Jesus. They all had a vision that defined their actions. Vision is seeing what does not yet exist and believing it is possible. Without vision, leadership becomes reactive. With vision, leadership becomes proactive and unstoppable. Here's a truth you must grasp. Vision precedes action, and vision shapes destiny. Leaders are not born from circumstances. They are created by vision. If you want to lead, you must first see the future more clearly than anyone else. You must define what success looks like, not just for yourself, but for those you are called to serve. Next, understand that leadership comes at a cost. Transformation is never free. Leadership demands sacrifice, endurance, and resilience. You will face criticism, rejection, and opposition. People may not understand your vision, and some will even resist it. But the right leader pushes forward regardless, because they are anchored to their purpose and guided by a higher principle. Let's talk about transformational leadership. Transformational leaders don't just manage, they change lives, communities, and systems. They inspire people to rise above their limitations and to reach their full potential. They create environments where others can thrive, where innovation is encouraged, and where purpose is discovered. Leadership also involves understanding your unique assignment. You were not created to be ordinary. You were designed to impact the world in a way only you can. No one else has your combination of gifts, experiences, and insights. Discovering your assignment is a process of listening to your inner calling, aligning with your strengths, and acting with intentionality. Now consider the principle of alignment. Your leadership will never reach its full potential if your actions are not aligned with your values, vision, and purpose. Alignment creates authenticity, which inspires trust. Trust is the foundation of influence. Influence is the currency of leadership. Without it, leadership is hollow. Another key to lasting leadership is resilience in adversity. Life will test you. There will be setbacks, failures, and times when everything seems to be against you. True leaders respond not with despair, but with renewed determination. They see obstacles as lessons and opportunities, not as roadblocks. They adapt, innovate, and persist. And remember, leadership is relational. No one leads alone. The greatest leaders cultivate strong teams, mentors, and alliances. They understand that multiplying leadership multiplies impact. When you train others to lead, your vision expands far beyond what you could achieve alone. Finally, let's speak about legacy. Leadership is not just about what you accomplish in your lifetime. It's about the lives you touch, the leaders you raise, and the principles you leave behind. Every decision you make, every word you speak, every action you take contributes to your legacy. Ask yourself, will I leave the world better than I found it? Will my influence empower others to reach their potential? Here's the bottom line. Personal leadership is a journey of self-discovery, mastery, and impact. It begins with knowing yourself, discovering your calling, and mastering your thoughts, emotions, and actions. It continues with courage, initiative, influence, strategy, persistence, and communication. And it reaches its fullness in vision, transformational action, and legacy. So I challenge you tonight, stop being passive, stop waiting for permission, step into your assignment, lead boldly, transform yourself and others. Leadership is not a position, it's a lifestyle, a mindset, a commitment to impact the world for the better. Say it with me: I am a leader. I am designed to impact. I will rise above fear. I will lead with purpose. I will leave a legacy. If you embrace this, your life will never be the same. You will discover your personal leadership, and through it, you will change the lives of countless others. The world is waiting for leaders like you. Step forward, lead, transform, dominate in your purpose. This is your time. This is your calling.